There's a moment in almost every Thai GL drama that feels like coming up for air. Two women leaning in, the world falling away, love finally taking center stage. It's powerful. It's necessary. But lately, I've started wondering, what if the love we're being shown comes with hidden costs? Look, I'm not here to tear down Thai GL. I love these series. They've given queer women visibility we once only dreamed of. But loving these stories doesn't mean accepting everything. It means expecting them to do right by us. Because beneath the romantic soundtracks and picture-perfect couples, the same red flags keep appearing. Patterns that confuse intensity for intimacy, drama for depth, and control for care. And if we don't name them, they start to feel normal. So today, we're diving into the triggers and tropes that rarely get discussed. The narrow beauty standards, the recycled toxic dynamics, the blurred lines around consent, and the emotional toll of fandom itself. Not to walk away from Thai GL, but to demand that it evolve, because queer love deserves more than just pretty moments. From the very first scene, Thai GL dramas often drop us into a world where everyone looks like they stepped off a magazine cover. Flawless skin, perfect hair, bodies that seem sculpted for the camera. It's undeniably pretty, but after a while, that kind of beauty starts to feel less like celebration and more like a requirement. Take Show Me Love, for example, a series set in Thailand's beauty pageant world, where the leads, played by Charlotte and Engfa, are both models in real life. In that context, it makes sense. The story revolves around competition, image, and surface-level perfection. Of course, the casting reflects that. But here's the issue. When that same standard gets copied into other GL series, with completely different settings and stakes, it stops being storytelling and starts being a rule. Because when sapphic love only shows up in thin, light-skinned, perfectly styled bodies, it sends a quiet message. Only certain kinds of queer women are worthy of being loved on screen, and that we need to look a certain way to be loved. Where are the darker-skinned girls? The plus-size women? Older sapphics? Trans characters? Or just everyday people with stretch marks, acne, or natural hair? Their absence isn't neutral. It's exclusion dressed up as aesthetics. And that gap between fantasy and reality doesn't just make us feel unseen. It shrinks the emotional range of the stories themselves. When characters exist mostly to look beautiful, they stop feeling real. Queer love isn't about perfection. It's about showing up as you are. So if Thai GL truly wants to honor that love, it needs to widen what beautiful even means. And finally, let real bodies take up space. Let's be real. Conflict is part of any good love story. But too many Thai GL dramas lean on the same tired playbook. Misunderstandings that could be solved with one honest conversation. Jealousy with no real cause. Or characters shutting each other out instead of talking things through. It's not tension. It's avoidance dressed up as plot. Worse, some shows start romanticizing behavior that shouldn't be romantic at all. Possessiveness gets labeled as passion. Yelling passes for emotional depth. And in a few cases, even physical aggression is framed as intensity rather than harm. When this keeps happening without consequence or critique, it blurs the line between love and control, and teaches us, especially the younger among us, that pain is just part of how queer women love. But sapphic relationships don't have to be messy to be meaningful. Real emotional stakes come from vulnerability, not toxic behavior. From growth, not repetition. Thai GL has the talent, the audience, and the heart to tell stories where love is complicated, kind, and grounded in respect. We don't need perfect couples. We need honest ones. In many Thai GL dramas, you'll see a character suddenly kissed without warning, pushed against a wall, held in place, overwhelmed by passion. The music swells, the lighting softens, and we're meant to see this as a romantic turning point. But when one person hasn't said yes, or hasn't had the chance to say anything at all, what looks like desire can feel like something else entirely. These moments rarely get questioned within the story. No one calls it out. No consequences follow. And over time, that silence normalizes a dangerous idea that love means overriding boundaries, that saying no is just part of a game, and that real feelings justify pushing past someone's comfort. For those of us who've experienced real-life coercion, these scenes don't feel romantic. They feel like reminders of harm. Sapphic love, at its core, is built on trust and mutual care. When stories show intimacy as something taken rather than shared, they twist that truth. Real romance doesn't happen in the gray zone. It happens when both people are fully present, aware, and willing. And that's the kind of love TGL has the power to show. You've probably seen this scene. One character is tipsy, maybe leaning in with lowered inhibitions, and the other, sober, hesitates for just a second before giving in. We're meant to sigh, to root for them, to call it a spark. But if you sit with it, something feels off. Because when alcohol's involved, yes isn't always clear, and sometimes it's not really there at all. These moments are often used as a shortcut, a way to bypass shyness or unlock hidden feelings. But real intimacy doesn't need a chemical push to happen. And framing drunk confessions or blurred encounters as romantic milestones sends a troubling message. That queer love isn't something we choose clearly, soberly, and with full awareness. It implies our feelings only surface when our guard is down, not when we're truly present. For those of us who've been in situations where alcohol made them vulnerable, these scenes aren't sweet. They're unsettling. Real connection starts when both people are fully in their bodies, their minds, and their choices. TGL can still show messy human moments, but it shouldn't dress up ambiguity as affection. Love deserves clarity, not haze. For many of us, TGL dramas become more than just shows. They turn into entire worlds. We fall hard for the couples, follow the actresses' every post, and spend hours watching reaction videos, behind-the-scenes clips, and fan-made edits. At first, it feels like belonging. But over time, that belonging can blur into obsession, where fiction starts to feel more real than our own lives. This kind of immersion isn't harmless. When fandom takes up all your emotional space, real relationships, hobbies, and self-care get pushed aside. The fantasy becomes a refuge, and stepping away feels like loss. And when the stories we love only show happy endings, couples reunited, families suddenly accepting, every conflict neatly resolved, coming back to reality can leave us feeling lonelier, less worthy, or disconnected from who we really are. There's nothing wrong with loving these stories deeply, but we need to ask, are we seeking connection or escape, and at what cost to our mental health and sense of self? Because you deserve to love fictional couples and still come home to yourself. Let's be honest, so many TGL dramas start to feel like remixes of the same plot. Same tropes, same misunderstandings, same dramatic arcs recycled from one series to the next. Often, that's because many stories come from the same small circle of writers, using formulas that have worked before. And sure, it's safe, it gets views, but it also leaves us craving something new, something that dares to be different. The real issue isn't just repetition, it's the avoidance of emotional maturity. Instead of showing couples navigating real conversations, boundaries, or growth, scripts default to childish fights, jealousy spirals, or over-the-top drama that substitutes intensity for depth. It's as if writers don't trust audiences to sit with quiet honesty, so they keep turning up the volume instead. But here's the hopeful part. Shows like Clarabelle and Runaway prove that TGL can break the mold. They take risks, ditch tired tropes, and still find massive love from fans. That tells us something powerful. We're ready for more. The industry just needs the courage to catch up. It's hard not to get swept up in the chemistry between GL couples, on-screen and sometimes off. But we need to ask, how much of that connection is real, and how much is carefully crafted for clicks, engagement, and sales? In many cases, the line between character and actress blurs because the industry leans heavily on fan service, staged moments, rehearsed intimacy, and curated, cute content designed to keep us invested long after the episode ends. This might seem harmless, but it comes at a cost, especially for the actresses themselves. They're often expected to maintain a perfect ship persona across interviews, events, and social media, even when it drains them or invades their privacy. It's not unlike the K-pop idol system, a high-pressure performance of affection that leaves little room to just be. And when fans treat these manufactured moments as proof of real love, it traps everyone, actors and audiences alike, in a cycle of expectation and emotional labor. What's rarely discussed is how this dynamic shifts the focus away from the story itself. Instead of celebrating the writing, the emotional arc, or the quiet moments of real connection, we're trained to chase more photos, more hugs, more proof of closeness. That hunger fuels an economy where intimacy becomes currency, and the actress's real boundaries get lost in the noise. Loving these stories shouldn't mean ignoring the machinery behind them. Seeing the actresses as full human beings, not just characters or marketing tools, is part of respecting them. And honestly, true storytelling doesn't need fan service to thrive. If the love on screen is real enough, we'll believe in it, without needing extra scenes, forced interactions, or performative closeness. Thai GL dramas are often praised for giving sapphic love a spotlight, and that visibility matters. But what we talk about less is how these stories are still shaped by business interests, cultural taboos, and market-safe formulas. That tension creates a gap between what feels progressive on screen and what's actually possible behind the scenes. This is why conversations like the one around Here, the upcoming series with Namten and Film, are so important. When questions arise about whether a story might unintentionally reinforce harm, like transphobia, it's not about attacking the actresses. It's about asking, are we truly pushing boundaries or just repackaging comfort as progress? We can love this genre and demand more from it. We can be grateful for what exists and clear-eyed about what's missing. Because real representation isn't just about having queer characters. It's about telling stories that reflect our full humanity with honesty, care, and courage. And that starts with conversations like this one. But it also means recognizing that critique and care aren't opposites. They're partners. Holding these dramas accountable isn't about tearing them down. It's about believing they can do better, because we know they're capable of more. So tell me, what tropes or patterns in Thai GL dramas leave you feeling tired, uneasy, or just plain done?